Welcome to Parenting Successful Teens, the podcast that cuts through the overwhelm and stress of this phase and offers parents simple, practical, cognitive, science-based strategies for keeping their teens on track. Join Master Coach and real-life mom, Allie Irwin, to talk about real teens, real problems, and the skills it takes to raise successful adults.
I was thinking about what I wanted to talk to you about this week, and I have a little sticky note on my bulletin board that says, what can I do today to help solve my clients' problems? I refer to that sticky note when I'm working on a tool for use with my clients, or when I'm thinking about you all and what I can give you on this podcast that will help make your family relationships stronger and your experience as a parent more fun and more impactful. Increase your leadership in your family. What I've been noticing a lot in my clients over the past couple of weeks is what I call the big but. And an example of this is when client will come to me and they will say something like, they'll be explaining a problem that their child is having, and they say, I know it will build character, but I just hate watching her struggle. Or another client said, we were talking about peer pressure and her son, who wasn't the stereotypical kid that perfectly fit into their high school. He was feeling a little bit like an outsider, and she was struggling with the pressure he was feeling to fit in, which is such a common, especially late middle school into high school, such a common situation where kids are trying to establish their own identity, but their own identity also has to match the identity of their friends so that they can fit in. And what she said is, I want him to care more about his own opinion than others, but my mama heart just can't stand to see him excluded. And so the mom was struggling with the same. She was feeling tempted to tell her son, just change these couple things and then you'll fit in better and you'll have more friends, because she couldn't stand that he was being excluded from, activities that because she was friends with a mom, saw the other kids doing and not asking him. And then on a more practical level, I've had clients say things like, oh, he's so smart, but he just doesn't study. Or with a musical instrument, he's so talented, but he doesn't practice. Or with my senior clients, my seniors in high school, very often I'll get some version of, she's so hard working, but she's just so burned out. What's common in all of these sentences is that word but. No matter what the situation is, there's the first half of the sentence is really describing how they want things to be and how they want to see the situation. And then the second half of the sentence after the but is describing how things are, or the obstacle that they see that's preventing them from having that first half that they really want. So if you listen to it again, I know it will build character, but I hate watching her struggle. Okay, the mom's talking about how hard it is to watch her daughter struggle, makes it too hard. And so the mom jumps in and helps when she knows that it would be better if she just let her daughter figure it out herself. Or, in the second example, I want him to care more about his own opinion than others, but my mama heart can't stand to see him excluded. Again, that's that same sentiment where she knows, she intellectually wants him to follow the beat of his own drum. But if you would just change this one thing, stop wearing those punk band t-shirts and start wearing Vineyard Vines, then he wouldn't have to change anything else about himself and he would be more socially acceptable to his friends. But you can hear the mom struggle because she wants him to be who he is, but she also wants his life to be easier than it is. And that's usually when they come to me, is when they're caught in this struggle. So that's what we're going to talk about this week, is what to do when you hear yourself saying sentences with those big buts in the middle. So the first step after you catch yourself saying this is to take a couple of deep breaths and notice the feeling that thought is giving you. And the reason that we want to do this is because normally when you're having thoughts like this, what's really happening is the thought is going on a loop, like it's running over and over and over in your head. And so the first thing that you want to do is bring more awareness to the thought itself, because that thought very often is kind of almost gone on autopilot, right? Like it's just running super terrible background music. So by bringing awareness to that thought, you'll notice what emotion that thought is creating for you. I know it will build character, but I hate watching her struggle. When my client brought that thought up, the emotion that was creating for her was fear. She was feeling a lot of fear about the pain she was going to have to endure while she watched her child be in pain. That's a really, really common emotion for parents, is whatever our child is feeling, like we feel like we're going to feel it too. And so we don't want our children to be in pain, but we also don't want our children to be in pain because we don't want to be in pain. Like both of those things are true at the same time. It's like a compounding effect. So the first thing is to notice the feeling that thought is giving. And that feeling of fear would be completely different than the client that said, oh, he's so smart, but he just doesn't study. Like for her, that thought was bringing up frustration. And then frustration, like the more that she kind of stayed with it, she noticed it was frustration with a little bit of fear, because she was frustrated that he was squandering his opportunities. And then she was afraid that would continue throughout high school. And then he would have limited options after high school. Like she had projected all the way from 9th grade through graduating high school and through like his college choices. What would happen if he wasn't more motivated? So you want to take a couple of deep breaths and just settle in to the felt experience of that thought. And what I mean by that is you almost want to narrate it like what's actually happening in your physical body. Like when I have the thought, he's smart, but he doesn't study, like I grit my teeth, or my shoulders hunch up, or, maybe a more fear-based thought, like your breathing gets shallow because you're nervous. And the reason that you want to narrate what's actually happening in your body is to turn your attention away from the thought loop that's happening. And by narrating it, it helps you break that thought loop. Like it literally gives your brain something to do while you're experiencing the physical emotion. Okay, it gives your brain a little break, and that little pause oftentimes can break the thought loop. Instead of thinking the thought, you almost become the person watching the person that's thinking that thought. And just that little bit of distance will break the thought loop. And as you're narrating your felt, like your physical experience of that thought, you're feeling your feelings. That's what they mean by feeling your feelings, is you're feeling them in your body. What you're also trying to do is take yourself out of fight or flight mode. Oftentimes when we get in those thought loops, we're kind of low level putting our system into fight or flight. And in order to do the next step, clearly you want to get your system out of fight or flight. And if you are one of those people who never knows what they're feeling, like I definitely have clients who, when I ask them what they're feeling, like they have no idea. And when I ask them where they're feeling it in their body, like they really only have like the sketchiest idea of what's happening in their body. They're very disconnected. You can still do this. Like even if that's you, it's still okay. All you want to do at that point is just take a couple of deep breaths. Just take a couple of deep breaths until you notice that your breathing is calm and slow and totally normal. And then when you've got yourself to that point, say the same thought again, except for instead of the but, put an and in its place. So that would sound like, I know what will build character, and I hate watching her struggle. I want him to care more about his own opinion than others, and my mama heart struggles to see him excluded. He's smart, and he doesn't study. She's hardworking, and she's burned out. And when you switch that but to an and, then notice what comes up for you. Maybe underneath that fear that you were pushing against, when you had that but in there, very often you're pushing against that second half of the sentence. And when you put the and in, very often like a completely different emotion comes up. Sometimes it's sadness that your child is struggling. Sometimes it's regret about a choice that they've made. Sometimes it's neutral. Like it can be the whole range, but usually when you switch the but to an and, whatever emotion there has like a softer texture to it, like more acceptance and less pushing away, less resistance. And what comes to mind for me is it has an element of truth to it, that you're acknowledging that both halves of the sentence are true. He's smart is true, and he doesn't study is also true right now. Okay, she's hardworking is true, and she's burned out, also true. I want him to care more about his own opinion than others, and it's hard on my mama heart to watch him be excluded. Like both of those things are true. And when you are then operating from the place of both parts being true, you have a much clearer idea of what the next step is. You can say, he's smart and he doesn't study. And we're going to make a plan about what happens next. Maybe he doesn't know how to study. Maybe he needs extra help with studying. Maybe he needs some study buddies. Like we went through all the different choices with one of our two kids. One of our two kids loves to study and the other one was not interested in studying at all. And when we accepted that he was really smart and he didn't want to study, then we had like a much clearer picture of what we were working with. And so we didn't spend the whole 4 years of high school making excuses for his lack of interest in studying. Like we came up with a different plan that incorporated the fact that like studying for school was always going to be a challenge for him. And how do we help raise a successful child for whom studying is like a really difficult thing? Okay, not a naturally motivated studier. But what we discovered when we accepted that truth, that he hated studying, was that he would study really intensely on subjects that he was really interested in. That once we stripped away the like overarching studying is good, not studying is bad, and dug in a little deeper, it became really clear to us that he would be a superstar at the things that he cared about, and that we had to help tailor his path to incorporate that. Okay, we didn't try to make him fit the mold of our other more naturally studious child, but only when we accepted both half of the sentences, we got clear and calm about it, could we see that. Okay, let me give you another example. I know it will build character, and I hate watching her struggle. Okay, when you accept both halves of that sentence, you understand that you have to get the support that you need so that you're good, like you're emotionally stable, because then you can provide that safe space for your own daughter while she's struggling. Okay, that goes back to what I was saying about that compound effect. If you're struggling yourself and your daughter's struggling too, like that's too much struggling. But if you can get calm and clear and get the support that you need, then you can provide that for your daughter. Okay. And then she can get through that character building experience and leave the situation with more character. Okay. Then that character building situation can even be a good thing, but you will only realize that you have to get the support that you need so that you can provide her support once you accept both halves of the sentence. And that's the power of substituting the but for the and. Okay. And I could do, 20 more examples because this is such a common thing that we say when we're talking about our kids or our jobs or even ourselves. Like, oh, I would love to lose 10 pounds, but I hate going to the gym. If you just switch it to an and, I would love to lose 10 pounds and I hate going to the gym, then you can start to think of, well, what can I do besides going to the gym that would help me meet my weight loss goals? Okay, you can apply this to any situation, and it's so easy and it's free. And I would love you to try it and then send me an email and tell me how it worked. Or if you have any questions, you can reach me at Allie@allieirwin.com. And I would love to hear how it goes. Have a great week, everyone.